The purpose of this video is to explain how to calculate your grade. Before beginning, there's one thing to keep in mind. The method I explain here will only work after you have taken Exam 1. This is because there are only 3 grade categories in this class: weekly assignments, response papers, and exams. And it is only after Exam 1 has been completed that there will be a grade in all 3 categories. For that reason, if you really want an accurate picture of your current grade, then you should wait to calculate your grade until after you've taken the first exam. To begin, you need to visit the gradebook and have a look at all the assignments that have been graded so far. For the purposes of illustration, I'm going to imagine that you would like to determine your grade right after you've just received your grade for Exam 1. So let's imagine that you have the following scores on the assignments that you have completed thus far. In the weekly assignments category, we will say that you have completed both quizzes and received a 10 out of 10 on quiz 1 and a 7 out of 10 on quiz 2. In addition, we will imagine that you have received a 10 out of 10 on all discussion forums. With this information, we can determine your raw weekly assignment grade. That is, the total amount of points you earned in the weekly assignments category out of the total possible points for that category. In this case, you would have earned 77 out of 80 possible points. Next, we will do the same thing with the response papers. Let's imagine that in the first half of the semester, you completed response papers 1 and 4, scoring 33 out of 50 and 40 out of 50 on those papers respectively, and that you did not complete response papers 2 and 3, which would mean you would have a 0 out of 50 in the gradebook for those response paper assignments. Now, when calculating your raw grade for the response papers, it is important that you do not include any of the zeros for the response papers you were not required to complete. In this case, you have a 0 out of 50 for both response paper 2 and a 0 out of 50 for response paper 3. However, because you were only required to complete 2 response papers in the first half of the semester, you should not include these zeros into your calculation of the raw grade. You should only count the grade for response paper 1 and the grade for response paper 4. In this scenario, when we add these 2 grades together, we get a raw response paper grade of 73 out of 100 possible points. The third and final grade category is for the exams. Let's imagine that on Exam 1, you received 160 out of 200. If that were the case, then since there has only been 1 grade in this category, the raw exam grade would also be 160 out of 200 possible points. Now that we know your raw grade for each category, we can calculate your overall grade by taking into account what percentage of the overall grade each grade category is worth. To keep track of this information, using a chart like what you see on screen can be very helpful. The first step will be to fill in the raw grade that we already determined for each separate grade category. We determined that you would earn 77 out of 80 for the weekly assignments, 73 out of 100 for the response papers, and 160 out of 200 for the exams. Now, once this has been completed, our goal will be to determine the total grade points for each grade category. This is the total number of points that each grade category contributes to your overall grade. We will begin with a weekly assignments category and then do the same calculation for the response papers and the exams. The first step is to convert the raw grade into percentage points. To do this, simply calculate the percentage of raw points earned over possible raw points and then multiply that number by 100. So in this case, divide 77 by 80, which gives us 0.9625. And then, if we multiply that number by 100, by of course simply moving the decimal point to the right 2 places, then we end up with 96.25 percentage points. And this simply represents that you have earned 96.25% of the available points in the weekly assignments category. Once this has been determined, then we are ready to calculate how many grade points you have earned from your weekly assignments. To do this, simply multiply the percentage points by the percentage of the overall grade that this category is worth. So in this instance, we would multiply the number of percentage points for the weekly assignments, which again is 96.25, by the percentage the weekly assignments category is worth, which is 25% of the overall grade. So this means that we would need to multiply 96.25 by 0.25. And doing that gives us a grade point total for the weekly assignments of 24.06. This is the total amount of points that the weekly assignments category will contribute to your final grade. Because this category is worth 25% of your overall grade, the most grade points this category could have would be 25. So a grade point total of 24.06 means that you have earned nearly all the possible points for this category. Now, we simply repeat the same process for the response papers and exams. First, calculate the percentage of earned raw points over possible raw points for the response papers category. And we do this by dividing 73 by 100, which of course is 0.73. And then we multiply that number by 100. And when we do that, then we get a total of 73 percentage points. Then, to determine the response paper grade points, we again need to multiply these percentage points by the percentage that the response papers are worth of the total grade. Because the response papers are also worth 25% of the grade, this means once again multiplying the percentage points by 0.25. And when we multiply 73 by 0.25, then we get a total of 18.25. Then finally, we need to do the same thing for the exam category. First, divide 160 by 200, which comes out to 0.8. And then multiply this by 100 to get a total of 80 percentage points. Then we multiply this by the percentage of the total grade that the exams are worth. Now for the exams, that percentage is 50%. So we multiply 80 times 0.5, which gives us a total of 40 grade points for the exams category. Now that we know the grade points for all three grade categories, we can determine your overall grade by simply adding all the grade point totals together. When we add 24.06 plus 18.25 plus 40, then we get an overall grade total of 82.31. And this means that your current grade at this point in the semester would be 82.31%, which is good enough for a B in the class. I hope this video has been helpful, and if you have any questions about how to calculate your grade or about anything else pertaining to the class, then please do not hesitate to contact me.